And that's the thing that in Christian people, we have a lot more, than the world seems like they brush these things off as, well, it's bound to happen or something like that. But we know different, don't we? We know that when we see these things coming, there is something that we need to be doing. And what we need to be doing is drawing closer to God. This fear that we have is a good tool because it makes us focus in on what we should be doing at this time. Now, Webster says that fear is anxiety or aggravation, thank you, Mark, caused by the presence of danger, evil, pain, dread, and fear. The danger, like storms coming or whatever, the damage that can happen, and get caught up in it. Evil, there's a lot of drugs and stuff going on in the world, and a lot of, things that are happening there that people get caught up in. Pain is whenever we start suffering the conflicts of being sickness or in an accident. Thing we get hurt real bad, we fear that, hey, this could be it, brings fear on us. And dread. And there's one thing that I used to always dread was driving to work in the snow. I dreaded to drive to work in snow. Little fear, wreck, having to be wrecked or something like that, or run off the road. And then to be afraid, about different things or different people, that puts us in a situation to where it starts consuming us. But that is something, that the Lord told us that we shouldn't be doing. So today, I'd like to talk to you, read in 2 Chronicles chapter 20. If you'll turn there, there's a man here that had fear, but he knew exactly what he needed to do. He needed to go to God and to confess his fear to God and turn this situation over. He was a God-fearing man. He also was a king. 2 Chronicles chapter 20. So he says, it came to pass after this also that the children of Moab and the children of Ammon, and with them others beside Amorites, came against Jehoshaphat and to battle. Then came some that told Jehoshaphat, saying, there cometh a great multitude against thee from beyond the sea, on the other side of Syria, and behold, they be in Hazazon, and with the, whatever that name is. And Jehoshaphat feared, and set himself to seek the Lord, and proclaim a fast throughout all Judea. And Judea gathered themselves together, and asked help of the Lord, even out of all the cities of Judea, they came to seek the Lord. Now, wouldn't it be wonderful that if the President of the United States would call all the people together and get down to pray? Wouldn't that be wonderful? Amen. Today, man seems like he wants to push aside God and handle things himself. That's the reason why we make such a mess of things, isn't it? It is. Because we don't really know. We don't know what's out here in the future, but God does. So anyway, and Jehoshaphat stood in the congregation of Judea and Jerusalem in the house of the Lord before the new court, and said, O Lord God of our fathers, art thou God in heaven, and rulest not thou over the kingdoms of the heathen? And in the hands is there not power and might, so that none is able to withstand it? Jehoshaphat knew who he was. He knew the power that he had. And he was asking him, are you not? Yes, he is. And he knows. So we're going down here to verse 10, and he says, "And now, behold, the children of Ammon and Moab and Mount Seir, whom thou wouldest not let the Israel invade when they came out of the land of Egypt, but they turned from them and destroyed them not. It says, Behold, I say how they reward us to come out, to cast us out of thy possession, which thou hast given us to inherit. So now he's asking, says, well, we didn't destroy them when we first came over, but now they're coming against us, you know. So now what? So he's asking God about this, okay? He says, O our God, wilt thou not judge them? For we have no might against this great company to come against us, neither know we what to do, but our eyes are upon thee. So, says, and the Judea stood before the Lord with their little ones, their wives, and their children. So, all Judea is looking to God, praying for help, right? So, this is things that we ought to do, things that, you know, remind us what we should be doing when we get into problems. Okay. So it says, upon Jared, the son of Zechariah, and the son of Benaniah, the son of Zered, and the son of whoever that is, a Levite of the son of Asaph, came the Spirit of the Lord in the midst of the congregation. And he said, Hearken ye Judea and you inhabitants of Jerusalem, that the king of Jehoshaphat, and thou king Jehoshaphat, thus saith the Lord unto you, Be not afraid or dismayed by reasons of this great multitude, for the battle is not yours, but God's. Isn't that wonderful? God is going to fight this battle for these people because they have came to him. What if Jehoshaphat had said, okay, guys, let's get everybody together, check all our swords and spears and all our stuff and go out and try to see if we can win this war? What would have happened? They would have probably lost the army, wouldn't they? But they sought God. They came to God because Jehoshaphat knew. And that's today, you and I, we know. We know when we can't handle stuff. And why we don't seek God's face in prayer, go to God in prayer for his divine help and guidance is, you know, we make a miss of our life. We put ourselves in harm's way a lot of times, and it's costly. So, God said the battle was going to be his. He was going to fight this battle, right? So down here in 23, it says, And the children of Ammon and Moab stood up against the inhabitants of Seir, utterly to slay and destroy them. And when they had made an end of the inhabitants of Seir, every one helped to destroy another. So they destroyed one another. They turned against each other. And when Judea came toward the watchtower in the wilderness, they looked unto the multitude, and behold, they were all dead bodies, fallen to the earth, and none escaped. This is what happens when God fights your battle. The same way it was when God fought the battle for Moses and the children of Israel before. He brought them safely across the Red Sea, but he destroyed the Egyptian army. No Hebrew child was lost, but yet the whole army of Israel was destroyed. In the same way right here, when people seek God first and get God's guidance, a whole lot better situation happens. You know? A little testimony here I'd like to give Brother Dub. I'll have to mention this because it was just too good to not know that God's hand was involved. God had Dub had 2 steers, and my son and daughter, they've got a steer up there at Dub's. So we had 4 animals. So Dub got a slaughter date for them. So we had to separate the 2 from the 4. So we go up there and set the corral up, panels, and put the trailer in place. And Dub goes out there and just scatters the feed in the trough. Well, him walks the steers. Well, this one walks back out around on the back side. And so there was 3 in the corral. Dub's 2 and one of the other one. So he starts to shut the gate, and the one that we didn't need walked right out in front of Dub and got out of the way. Dub finished shutting the gate. Well, there was the 2 we needed in the corral. Well, I brought in what we call the push gate. We got a little 8-foot gate that we push between us and the cattle so they won't kick us or, kind of maul. Well, Dub got one in, I got one in. We started walking to them. They just hopped right up in the trailer before they were loading. I pushed the door shut. That was so easily done, and and I have loaded cattle many times before you had to fight them to get them to go in that trailer, and had a hard time of separating one from the other, because one just wanted to mingle around a lot, But this just happened just like clockwork. It was too good to not know that the Lord's hand was involved. So later on, I talked to Dub. I said, Dub, when you called and said that you had a date, I said, I kind of asked God, prayed he would give, that we needed his hand, because I know that it's going to be a hard job getting them. We appreciate, some help. Deb said, well, I prayed a little bit too. So you think God don't answer prayers, boys, you better think again. Okay, now, like I say, fear is a good tool, and it's something that is good for us. It keeps us on our toes, especially to know when to react and when not to react. But a lot of times in the Christian life, we have a fear of failure. We fail to be a good husband, good wife, good mother, good father, or maybe a good brother or good sister. We fail to do what we should do to help one another. And to being a good Christian, this is one of the things that the Christian people we have that always seems like kind of haunting us a little bit, that we maybe fail to do something we should have done when something is brought in front of us, as being to being a good Christian. Webster says failure is a state of lacking or insufficient, or succeeding in doing or becoming. Now, the first thing about being a Christian is that you've got to be saved, right? You've got to be saved. You got to come to the Lord. And but the thing here is this. In St. John 6:65, and he said, therefore I say unto you, no man can come unto me except it were given to you of my Father. So you didn't select, God selected you to be a child of God, to come to him, to be saved, and to get your sins forgiven, to become a Christian. So therefore, once you become a Christian, then it is the day-to-day battle that we're going to have with Satan that's going to come and try to pull us away or to cause us problems. And he causes us problems every day. In Luke 12:4-5, Jesus says this, and I say unto you, my friends, be not afraid of them that can kill the body, and after that have no more than they can do. But I forewarn you whom you should fear. Fear him which after hath killed hath the power to cast into hell. Yes, and I say unto you, fear him. So the only ones that one we really need to fear is God. But if you're a child of God and God selected you, God loves you. And if God loves you, He's not going to cast you in hell. But there's something that we've got to do every day. There is things that you and I need to do every day. And number one is the 2 commandments. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And that's an everyday thing. And number 2 is pray to God. Your being is more important to God than what you can do for Him. Don't worry about what you can do to God to serve God. Remember who you are. Being that Christian person that espouses the Lord Jesus Christ every day. That people can see the Lord in your life. This is something that you and I need to do every day. And of course, you know, Satan is right there to block. Every time you turn around, he's right there to do. But, in the answer to this, Jesus knew this. When you became a Christian, He knew that you was going to have this fear. He knew that you was going to fight these battles. So what does He do? In St. John 14:27, these things have I spoken unto you, being yet present with you, but the Comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, whom the Father will send in my name, He shall teach you all things and bring all things to your remembrance whatsoever I have said unto you. Peace I leave with you. He says, my peace I give you. The peace that He gives you is a peace that fights the fear that is in you every day. So you go to the Lord in prayer every day. He reminds our hearts and our minds of this peace that we've got, that the Spirit of God is in us. It's going to help us to fight this battle against the world and against Satan. And not as the world gave you, I give you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let it be afraid. So being a Christian, a lot of times before we fail ourselves by not going to the Lord in prayer every day. Our fears, go to God, talk to Him about them. We don't spend enough time talking to the Lord. That is something that we neglect. And when we neglect that, that's whenever Satan is ready to strike. He knows when you're dropping the ball. He knows where you're at all the time. Okay. Now, we read about a man here that feared God. He knew what to do when trouble came. He went to God and He told Him about the fear that he had. The people. Let's now read about one that had no fear. Let's turn to Luke chapter 16. Starting at verse number 19. Okay. This is an all familiar story, right? Our preacher has preached on this story many times. But let's read here. It says, there was a certain rich man which was clothed in purple and fine linen, and fared sumptuously every day. In other words, he had plenty of food, he had nice clothing, probably a real nice home to live in, didn't have no needs, and had no fear of nothing. And especially he didn't have no fear of God. He put his trust in the worldly things that he had around him. He said, and there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate, full of sores, and desiring to be fed with crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. So poor Lazarus suffered every day. Now the rich man, he knew Lazarus was there. He knew he could have fed Lazarus every day, give him clothes, maybe some shelter. Could have give him maybe a doctor to help take care of the sores and the wounds that he had. Could have eased his suffering, but he didn't do that. He had no compassion upon what he saw. He had no fear of God. He had, no fear. And here's the sad part. Now, we're going to read the sad part here. It said, and it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by angels into Abraham's bosom. And the rich man also died and was buried. Now, Jesus didn't say that the beggar got buried, did he? He just said he was carried by angels. And in hell he lifted up, the rich man said, in hell he lifted up his eyes, and being tormented, and seeth Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried and said, Father, Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus, that he may dip his fingertip in the water, and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. And Abraham said, Son. So what does that tell you? He was the lineage of Abraham, wasn't he? He was a child of Abraham, down through the lineage. He knew God. He was acquainted with God because he was a child of God. He was come from the Abraham who was blessed by God. He knew. But what was it today? It says, Abraham said, Son, remember that thou in thy lifetime receivest thy good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things. But now he is comforted, and thou art tormented. The eyes of, when he did not have no fear of God, but yet now he suffers. He could have been being blessed, the riches and everything, through the family of Abraham, because the Bible tells us that God was going to bless the Abraham's family through the years, wasn't it? Down through the years. And this is something that happens, that we see that happens every day. We see people that start gaining in wealth in the world, and the next thing you don't see them going to church. They've got so many other things that they can be doing. They're not doing the one thing that they need to be doing, and that is thanking God and honoring God. And Abraham said, and beside all this, between us and you there is a great gulf fixed, so that they which pass from hence, they which would pass between hence and you cannot, neither can they pass us and would come from hence. In other words, you couldn't cross that gulf one way or another. This man did not have no fear. Therefore, it is, to know that the fear that God puts in us is a good tool, that it keeps us, reminding us always that coming to Him. And and also when we talked about talk about this fear of failure, the fear, there is another definition to fear, and it is an awe, a reverence, to reverence God as to who He is and the power He has, and that the control that He has. That's the thing that you and I today as Christian people understand, that in this world God controls. He is in charge. He can make anything happen, change anything, or He can stop anything that He wants to stop. I do. In St. John 12, 44 through 50, Jesus is talking here. See what I put. He says, and he cried and said to him, says, He that believeth on me, believeth not on me, but on him that sent me. And he that sent me seeth him, and he that seeth me seeth him that sent me. So the people there at the time that was looking at Jesus, they seen God the Father as well. He said, I am come to the world that whosoever believed on me should not abide in darkness. And if any man hear my words and believe not, I judge him not, for I am not to judge the world. I come not to judge the world, but to save the world. He that rejecteth me receiveth not my word, hath one that judgeth him. The word that I have spoken, the same shall judge him in the last day. So guys, this book right here is either going to be your salvation or it's going to be your judge. Amen. We can't deny that God's hand is not in this world. We can't deny who we serve is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And the fear that we have should not be the fear of what the world is doing out here. We need to go to God in fear and praise His name, because we know that through Him we have victory. Through Him we have what we need to sustain our life safely. And the old saying is, you know, if I go or if I stay, I am a winner either way. And that's something that we all need to believe in our hearts, in our minds, and not have a fear of going out and doing things that makes a bigger mess of our lives than what it already is, because other people are watching us. If we get afraid and do things that we're not supposed to do, it makes a mess of our lives, people that are watching us are going to say, well, he goes to church all the time. You just look at him, you know, or look at her. We can't do it ourselves. We need God in our lives every day. So, this is something that Jesus himself said, you know, he died for us. He gave himself for us. And this was the will of God. It's the thing that we got to always remember. You know, like I said before, the 2 commandments. If we do those 2 commandments, we are doing what God is wanting us to do. And that is Matthew 22, 37 through 40. You know, I don't know what I did with it. 37 through 40. Says here, and Jesus says, they asked Jesus the question here, says, Master, which is the greatest commandment in the law? And Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love thy Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all our soul, with all our mind. So this is where we go. We've got to put God first in our lives. If we do that, fear cannot take a hold in your life, because through the Holy Spirit of God, it will not be allowed. You will be at ease. You'll be comforted knowing that God is with you. And of course, the second one is love your neighbor as yourself. That one sometimes we seem to have a hard time to fulfill. You know what? Yeah. So, today, the things that are happening in the world today, we can't add to it, we can't fix it, we can't take away from it, but God can. He can protect you. He will protect His children. And if you're saved, you're one of His children. He chose you to be a child of God. You know, and Jesus told, says, if you know how to give good gifts to your children, being a carnal-minded or an evil person, living in an evil world, you know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more does your Heavenly Father know to give you good gifts? That's it. That's the reason we need to put our trust and our faith in the Lord Jesus Christ and believe and trust in God every day. Okay, guys, if y'all want to take a few minutes,